My name is Corinne Fetherolf. I'm 41 years old and the mother of Liam, Madison, and Paxton. I have been fighting our corrupt family court system since 2016. I have lost everything. I'm standing in front of what was my marital home, which is now sitting vacant. It's been for sale since August, and I am currently homeless. My ex-husband bought a new home with his girlfriend and in January of last year. In April of last year, he allowed me to move back into our marital home. He had it for sale and no one was buying it, and I needed a place to live. So what better idea than to move back into our marital home? I knew that he was having financial problems and it was going into foreclosure, and we talked about myself taking over the mortgage, applying for a new mortgage, trying to save it so it wouldn't go into foreclosure. And he said if that didn't work, he would file for bankruptcy, which gives me an automatic stay, which means I have 1 year to live here until the bank takes it. My ex-husband pretended to want to rekindle our relationship, get back together. So we were having an affair, I guess you could say, with myself behind his girlfriend's back. When I moved into the home, everything changed, and he left me again for the same woman. I was brokenhearted, but I think that's what I needed to finally realize who he is. I don't know what more it could possibly take. On May 22nd of last year, he picked up my sons for his visit and never brought them back. And this is the 5th time that he's done this. So it'll be almost a year that he has kidnapped my children from me. I have legal documents, a court order stating that I have custody of my children. But the court system won't honor that because I don't make $300,000 a year. And I don't pay off the judge, and I don't pay off my attorneys and police. Because I play by the rules, and because I am a good mother, I've never been deemed neglectful or unfit. I don't have my children. Apparently, my home was in foreclosure, from what I was told, and on July 5th, a man named Alex Betances bought my home and insisted that he needed to come in my house and I needed to leave immediately, the day of the auction. I was not familiar with real estate law, and I just said that he couldn't come in, and I shut the door in his face. I knew I needed to get studying. I had no idea, never given any notice, which you're supposed to have notice of all parties of interest. I spent the entire summer battling Alex Betances and his attorney, Michael Giles, for my home. They filed it as an eviction instead of an ejectment. He was never my landlord. I was never his tenant. We never had a lease. I never paid him any money. Our district justice granted him the eviction, and 10 days from that date, the constable came and evicted me from my own home. I filed for supersedis and appeal. Judge Taylor, who has no jurisdiction over this matter any longer, struck my appeal and my supersedis, along with Michael Giles and Alex Betances, on a Sunday when you can't have court hearings. And again, Judge Taylor has no jurisdiction over this matter. I went to an emergency hearing by myself, requesting a motion to stay, which the judge didn't even have to see me. Once he saw my documents and paperwork, it's an open book, he knew that they were wrong and granted me a motion to stay. I went home and no one would let me in my house. I called the police and I asked them if they would please call Mr. Betances and request that he change the locks back and open the door for me. I knew something wasn't right as soon as the police officer refused to do so, saying, "This isn't your home. I don't know who lives here. And I don't know what you want me to do. Do you want me to drag Alex out and make him open the door for you?" And I said, "No, but this is my property." So after me trying to plead with the officer, I just asked him to leave because he wouldn't go. He was watching me and following me around. I was trying to figure out a way to get in the house. My attorney asked me to break a window and said, "It's your home. You have a motion to stay by the judge, so you can go in." I did that. Later that evening, I was greeted by 3 police officers, and there was cars full of men that were parked on the wrong side of the street, all standing outside staring at me. It was 9 o'clock at night. I was going to get in the shower. They knocked on the door and said, can they come in? And I said, "No, I'm not dressed." And the police officer with no warrant pushed open my door and said, "Well, we're only going to be a moment." They told me that I was breaking and entering and it wasn't my property and I had no rights to be there. I showed them the motion to stay and explained the situation, and they told me that this means nothing to them. They didn't know what a motion to stay was. They didn't know what any of this legal documents meant, and that they were here to tell me that I needed to leave. They were walking around my house with flashlights, and they're yelling, "Is anyone else here?" They're going in each room as if I was hiding someone. I explained it's just myself. My children were kidnapped, and my daughter, who is 19, was not home at the time. The two officers went outside and they had a little meeting, I guess, and they came back in. They said, "We're not going to do anything tonight. We're not going to take any action. But you need to talk to your attorney in the morning." And I said, "I have to tell you, I don't feel safe." And the officer said, "I don't care. We'll talk to you later." And they left. That night, I could hear people in my yard making noises, trying to scare me. I knew that they were in my backyard. They were on my roof. I have recordings of all the times that they came to intimidate and bully me. All summer, Alex Betances was sending me text messages, showing up at my house, people in my yard. And when I would call the police, they said, "We don't know whose house this is. How do we know you live here? We can't do anything about it. What do you want us to do?" I was scared. I felt like I was losing my mind. I hadn't seen or talked to my children, and I missed them so much. And I knew that my ex-husband was in cahoots with Mr. Betances, and they were all gonna get away with it because that's what happens. The following day, 3 SUVs, police SUVs, showed up with 8 officers with guns in their holsters, banging on the door. "Open up, it's the police." I didn't even get a chance to unlock the door, and they pushed it open, no warrant. Again, walking through my house, raiding it, looking for someone and looking for whoever's here, looking for something I don't know. And they told me that I was breaking and entering, and this was Alex Betances' home, and it was not mine, and I needed to leave the property immediately. I explained the situation like I did to the other officers. I showed them my motion to stay, in which they stated, "Judge Taylor told us that you are breaking and entering, and this is not your property. If you have a problem with that, you take it up with Judge Taylor." Again, Judge Taylor has no jurisdiction over this matter. He is a district judge. I could be a district judge, but I'm not. And I know that he has no jurisdiction over this matter. Judge Rowley gave me the motion to stay, which it was signed by Judge Rowley himself, not rubber stamped. They told me I couldn't take any of my belongings with. They said that all of my jewelry, everything in here is not mine. And if I would come back to get anything, I'll be arrested because it's trespassing. They made me stand outside while they searched my home. And one of the officers said, "If you think that your husband is trying to take your children away from you, you're right, and he's going to win. You had no business ever moving in this house. Your ex-husband only wanted you in this house because you had no other place to go, and he felt bad because you're the mother of his children." I said, "What does my ex-husband have to do with any of this, and how do you know this? And why are you speaking to him about this?" He looked the other way because he didn't know what else to say. All the officers harassed me and had something mean to say. I had no car, so when they made me leave, they followed me down a prestigious road in Wyomissing Hills, Pennsylvania, with a police cruiser to make sure that I wasn't going to come back. I was humiliated and embarrassed. It was 4 o'clock, so all the children were getting off their buses. Moms were outside looking at me, and the courthouse fortuitously was closed. It's after 4 o'clock. I went down anyway to ask to talk to the emergency judge. I explained my situation to his assistant, and she said I was indeed right. The Wyomissing police had no right to evict me from my home. It is my home. She said she was going to call the police chief and get back to me. She came back outside, and her tune completely changed and said, "I'm sorry, but you need to contact your attorney. There's nothing I can do here. The DA ordered your eviction." I said, "The DA? This is civil, not criminal. What does he have to do with this?" She said, "I'm sorry, I can't tell you anymore. Contact your attorney." I was out of my home for 3 weeks in only the clothes that I had on, none of my medications for lupus or fibromyalgia, none of my anxiety medicines, none of my antidepressants. I didn't have my contacts. I was in my pajamas and flip-flops. I had no money, nowhere to go. I was bouncing around from friend to friend, trying to work on my court case, trying to find out where my kids were, how they were. I was fighting 2 court battles at once. My ex-husband did this on purpose, to leave me in another state of fight or flight, knowing that I couldn't get a job in time to get an attorney, get a car, pay for a place to live. I was now homeless. After the 3 weeks, I had my emergency hearing. They changed the time of the hearing so that my attorney would miss it, which he did. I represented myself, and the judge told me that he had already made up his mind before I walked into that courtroom. No matter what I said, it didn't matter, and when I started to make a valid point, I was quickly shut up. The judge ruled in Alex Batanz's favor and said I had 3 days to leave my marital home. He had to overrule his own ruling, giving me the motion to stay. When they showed me the notice from the sheriff's auction, my name was on there as a party of interest. But they told me I have no title, no entity, no interest in this home. I never received anything on the sheriff's auction. And that right there is something that I could have contested to stop the sale of the house. I had to quickly empty a 5-bedroom home, full basement, full garage, with all of my belongings that I spent all summer decorating and getting ready for my sons to come home. I had nowhere to put it. I had nowhere to go, and no vehicle to transport it. Thank God for friends who helped me out, people from church, helped with the U-Haul and helped with packing and storage facilities and boxes. And I don't know where anything is really. I mean, box-wise, everything was thrown in so quickly, and I had to leave so much behind. And everyone says, it's just a house. It's just a house. But it's not just a house. This is my house that I fought hard for. And my ex-husband did this on purpose so that I have no leg to stand on. I can't file for contempt when I don't have a home. In fact, I did fight for them in June, and I was still living in the house, and the judge told me that I could not see my sons because I was homeless. And right then and there, I knew they were connected because I wasn't homeless. I was still living in my house. They didn't even have the sheriff's auction yet. But somehow, the judge knew that I was going to be homeless, and he told me that I couldn't see my children. A modification was never filed. A modification was never done. It still states that I have custody of my children. I'm sure that this hearing doesn't even show up on the docket. Just like the hearing that I had from my house where Judge Rowley overruled his own ruling. I've moved about 14 times since August 2nd. I have lost so much. I've lost, more importantly, time with my children because of our erroneous decisions by our family court judge, by criminal judges. I can't even find the words to verbalize what I've been going through. I've slept on couches, outside, haven't had food to eat. I've been harassed and bullied, intimidated, and everyone looks at me like there's something wrong with me. Why doesn't she have her children? Why is she homeless? There's nothing wrong with me. The only mistake that I made was loving my husband more than I loved myself. And I have been punished greatly for his actions. He left me. He didn't want to be with me anymore, and that's fine. But that doesn't mean that I am not a mother to our 2 beautiful little boys. He's been trying to alienate me from them since he left me, and Paxton was only 4 months old. I had to miss his 2nd birthday. I had to miss Liam's 7th birthday. I've missed 3 Christmases, 2 Easters, every Mother's Day, because he picks them up and doesn't bring them back, and he's never once received any repercussion. But I do. When I file something against him, I'm punished even more. They try to order me into court-ordered supervised visitations. I said no, because there's nothing wrong with me. So I was punished for that. Why were they ordering me into supervised visitations after my ex-husband picked up my sons for 8 months no contact, when we had a custody order that he didn't follow, and I was ordered into supervised visits. My husband is a drug addict who relapsed only 4 weeks after being in rehab and still to this day continues to use. And he tested positive for the drug that he was in rehab for, and Judge James Bucci still handed my children over to my ex-husband. My house never even went into foreclosure. What happened was, Alex Betances received a loan for $242,000. We owe $269,000. The mortgage company, of course, doesn't want to go into foreclosure, so they made a deal that my husband, Dan, ex-husband, would pay off the loan with the $242,000 and it would be satisfied. Then they sell the house they had it listed for $369,000. The judge gets a cut, Dan gets a cut, the police get a cut, Alex gets a cut. And I am homeless. In September, I read in the paper that the title of the home was transferred from my ex-husband to Alex Betances. If the house went to foreclosure, it would have read Dan to the bank, and then the bank to Alex Betances. They changed the dates on the title and the deed of the home. As of July 22nd, I believe it was still in our marital name. You cannot file for any property, for any kind of eviction or ejectment, until the title and the deed are in your name. The sheriff's auction was July 5th. Alex filed July 12th and was granted the property. And they evicted me 10 days after that hearing. And then they evicted me again in the end of July. And the title and the deed were still in the marital name. He did not own this house. I have missed my son's entire year of second grade. I have presented my custody order to the school, Wyomissing Hills Elementary, and they have not honored it. I have emailed his teacher numerous times asking for updates and what he's doing and asking to be a part of his schooling. Never once has she answered. I have no idea what's going on in Liam's life. My son Paxton turned 4 in February. I should be home with him. I miss my children and I want to go home. I've been trying to get back on my feet. Every time he wipes me out and I can't get on my feet. Alex Betances, Michael Giles, Judge James Bucci, the entire Wyomissing Police Department. I hope you see this. And I hope tonight you kiss your children goodnight. And I want you to think about what would happen if you kissed them goodnight and you woke up and they were gone. You didn't get to see them without warning. How would you feel? Devastated, like they're dead, right? And no one will help you, and no one believes you, and everyone says you're crazy and you're mentally unstable, and that you're a drug addict. I'm not mentally unstable. I might be losing it because of everything I've been through. I'm not a drug addict. I don't even drink alcohol. I'm just a mom. That's all I want to do is be a mother. I want my God-given right to be a mother like everybody else. Why can't I have a normal life like everybody else? Every time I start to get on my feet, Dan wipes me out and makes sure that I have nothing. And he told me that in the beginning when he first left me. I haven't text messages. I want you gone. I'm going to make you disappear. And in the end, you will have nothing and you will have no one, and you'll have no one to blame but yourself. Dan Fetherolf. Judge never wanted to look at any of my text messages. Dan can tell me that I murdered him and I'm standing right next to him, and the judge would find me guilty. Berks County, Pennsylvania, is one of the most corrupt counties. I spoke to a former sheriff who was a sheriff for 25 years, and he doesn't recommend that I go to the DA for help because that's the next in the chain of command, because he's dirty too. And the reason that the school isn't complying with my custody order is because the judges call the school and they tell them not to. They don't have to. It's all the good old boys. They're all in it together. Please help me bring my sons home. Please help me go home. Why did they have to rush me out of this house for it to sit here vacant? They made me leave my wash machine, my dryer, my refrigerator, my stove, my microwave, everything that I brought there, and I paid for these. If it was a foreclosure sale, I could take the doors off the hinges if I wanted to. Dan doesn't have a foreclosure on his credit score, but I have an eviction now. I can't find anybody to rent me anything to save my soul. I worked very hard since I finally started working in October, and I bought myself a car. It's all mine and nobody else's, because my ex-husband took the car that I drove during our marriage. He's taken everything from me and taking everyone from me. He is not capable of co-parenting. He is not capable of following rules. He is not capable of returning my sons. Apparently, if he's done it 5 times.